then it will show the meeting. You can just click on that. It'll bring you right
Okay.
there.
All right,
Yeah.
no, we're good now.
It's the first time I did that, Alan, and that I went, oh, okay, this was simple.
Good.
Yeah.
That's a good way to do it.
Raina, did you send me an email saying you might not be at this meeting and you were able to, or was that Renee?
That was not me.
Okay.
Yes.
I was glad to see you. I for some reason I had it in my head you might be joining us a little bit later. Bill's on, so we're getting there.
Yeah,
So
we're
we
good.
have three
Yeah,
vacancies. So our membership is 15 right now.
Yeah, we have a quorum.
Alan,
We have a quorum. We're
James
at,
said she might be joining a little late.
yeah, Alan, we're good. We have 8. So
All right.
out of the 15, that's over 50%, so we're okay.
All right, let's go. You want to do the roll call vote, or you want to?
Yeah, that's fine. Deb Loomer,
All right, so
Lynn,
open the meeting at 6:07. Did you start the recording?
yeah, this is being recorded. So Deb Loomer,
Okay.
Lynn Reynolds, Michelle,
Here,
Bill.
Yes.
Thank you, Bill, for changing your name. Raina,
Here.
Mike Naughton,
Here.
and we have 2 guests, Brian Beck and Joanne Blyer. Thank you.
Yeah.
And
I
of
hope
course,
Jonathan joins us. So announcements, posting and so forth.
yeah, this will be posted on YouTube as well as the agenda you can find and all our information on our STRPB website.
And so anyone that goes on our agenda, they can just click on that and come in and join the meeting, right?
Correct.
Perfect. Okay. And do we know, since we have Joanne here, do we know if this link is now on the Gil Montague website, or are they still working on that? Not sure.
Link to,
our website. I asked Tina a while ago, actually back in December, and then I sent her another email in January. I didn't see it, so what I've done is I also just to be safe, I contacted all the towns and tried to have them link so that there is public access through the towns as well as the district. So if you can provide that, that would be great. Just adding a little link to our website then you don't have to worry about posting and all that. I'm taking care of all that. But this should have been posted by the town clerks for this meeting anyway, because I sent it out to all the towns.
Okay, thanks.
posting was on our
Um,
website.
I'm sorry?
The posting is on our website.
Our website is
The posting for this
one?
meeting.
Oh, okay. Well, that's
So
that's
if
good.
you can get through that to maybe to the website, and maybe not.
Yeah, I mean, if it would be just take that off her plate if just put up a link to our website and that takes care of it.
Yeah, if you go under school committee on
Yeah.
our website, go under school committee. And underneath that, there's 6-town regionalization. There's a link.
There's a link. Oh, great. Okay.
So it looks
Great.
like it is here.
Oh, that's great. Okay, then we're really covered at this point. So that's great.
Yep.
Thanks.
That's awesome. Thanks, Joanne. And I, just for the record, it's 6:10. I see that Karen O'Neill has just joined us. Hi, Karen.
I think I'm early.
No, you're late, but that's okay.
I'm
We
late,
forgive
I'm sorry.
Okay, approval of the full board minutes. Greg, you're almost done those, so we'll look at those at the
Yeah,
next time.
we'll table those. I'm almost done, but not quite there.
Okay, and then I noticed that the FTF subcommittee, they had some minutes it looked like they're 3/4/21 minutes. So let me just ask Mike to do you want to approve those here, or have you already approved those? Do you have any other minutes that need to be handled?
You're muted.
You're on mute.
We have a couple of minutes from this March 2nd and March 9th, but I don't think we're ready to approve either one.
Okay.
And just a quick note, that link on the GMRSD website looks like it goes to a page on their site. It doesn't go to the standalone webpage.
Oh, okay.
Okay, I'll check it
So
out
we
with
had
Tina tomorrow so that we'll make sure that it goes directly to the STRPB
PB.
It
website.
looks like that original thing that Greg set up back in the beginning.
Thanks, Brian.
Yeah, appreciate that.
Thank you, Brian. Yeah. So you said you want to table those minutes for now, correct, Mike?
Yes, please.
And that was 3-2, 3-4, and 3-9.
Not 3-4, 3-2 and 3-9.
All right, 3-4 you already approved.
We didn't meet
At
on
your meeting.
3-4. We only
Oh.
met on the 2nd and the 9th.
They met on the 2nd, Alan. 3-2 and
Okay.
3-9. That's it.
So, Mike, I thought I read an email from you, Mike, that said, just like an FYI, we approved the list of things for the deliverables. So that wasn't part of the meeting. That was just, your subcommittee approved that, the deliverables going forward, right?
Yeah, we did that on the 9th.
On the night.
You
Okay,
weren't there, Alan.
I know. I was not there. Okay, and then the education subcommittee, I wasn't able to print those. It was in some kind of an app or something that I wasn't familiar with. So I don't see Deb Pote here. Raina?
Yeah, so we approved the January 21st minutes at the last meeting. And I still have yet to finish the minutes from March 4th.
March, okay,
Mhm.
3-4, so you met on 3-4.
Yeah.
Not approved, thank you. Okay, and so subcommittee updates. Why don't we start with Mike, the FTF? You want to talk about the deliverables that you talked about at your meeting?
Sure. I mean, everybody should have received the document, the STRPB FTF 2021-0309 new grant deliverables.
Now, can you clarify one thing, Mike, please?
I
So
can
I
try.
have two, yeah. Well, one of them, so I have 2 pages. One of them said finances, and it started off a tool consisting of one or more Excel worksheets that starts with FY22. And that seemed to be pretty detailed, and it was really good. And then there's another one that I received that said finance, FY22 budget for each district in a format that normally used. And then, so I didn't know whether the second one was like the beginning of working on it, and then the other one, you refined it and expanded it and was clearer, or are these 2 separate standalone documents?
The second one was a working document leading up to the first one.
Okay,
The
so-
one dated March 9th
Hmm.
is the document that was approved by the subcommittee.
Hmm.
The other one,
Uh,
I think its name starts with MJN or something. And
Might I suggest that when these documents are printed, a header be put on them? So it's right there on the document for better organization,
that
like
would be
the
a good
date?
idea.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
Hey, Mike, would you like me to share that document?
Sure.
Okay.
So there's one that says regionalization grant 2021, and then it says meeting 2/12/17. That seemed to be more of a outline than the one that had all the text on it. Finance 1 ABC, transportation 2, and then so I'm not sure which one you're bringing forward for the deliverables, because they're both good.
Yeah. This one that's on the screen is the one we're bringing forward.
Okay, thank you.
And Karen, I
This-
will add a header to this.
Oh, thank you.
That's a, yeah, sorry about that. I should have. Well, I don't know, I don't know how much time we want to spend going over this. This is the document that was approved by the subcommittee. We divided it into 3 sections because we have 3 areas of responsibility. Under finances, essentially, we're looking for tools that can allow us to take existing budgets of the 2 districts and combine them into a theoretical budget for a combined district under various assumptions, like basically if we, if the education people, decide they want to have more programming in one area or arguably less in some other area, that, the 2 would make it relatively easy to say, okay, let's bump up the number of, personnel in, X area, or let's reduce the number of personnel in Y area and see what that does to the budget as a whole. The second piece has to do with enrollment. There's sort of a tension between the foundation enrollment, which is used for things like Chapter 78 calculations, and also town minimum aid contributions. But there's also actual attending enrollment, which affects how many kids are actually present to be in one class or another. And I haven't been able to figure out how to get from one to another using figures from DESI's website. I know in theory, you start with foundation, you subtract the choice out and the charter out, you add the choice in, you add tuition in, and unless maybe there's other things you do, but you end up with the number of kids you actually have. But in terms of making those numbers work, based on the DESI website, I've never been able to figure out how to do it. And so we're asking for the consultant to find out and tell us. So we can do that going forward, if in fact it can be done.
No, it can be done. And I think this is a great one because this causes so much confusion when people look at in-seat enrollment, which is what the town does. And then they find out, we're responsible for a lot more than that. And then they start to think things are fishy because they're getting different numbers. So I'm glad you have that on there, Mike. That's a good one. So both of these are going to give you a tool to, after the consultants are gone, to continue putting in different assumptions and continuing forward. Is that the
Yeah,
purpose of the C as well?
Pardon?
Is that the purpose of C as well?
The purpose of C actually is to, some members of the subcommittee are not convinced that even a 6-town district is large enough to be viable, or to provide a good education. And so this is asking the consultants to basically assess that question. Is 6 towns the right number?
So
and-
I have a question about this. Your last sentence in part C says, discussion of optimal student enrollment for a school district. Are you making an assumption that there is such a thing as an optimal student enrollment for a rural school district? If not, what does it depend on?
Well, that comes out of the observation by one of our members that the original, the Chapter 70 formula, the foundation budget formula,
Mhm.
is based on an optimal student district, which they said is 1,500 students. And,
Wow. Obviously there are lots of rural school districts that are much smaller than that across the country. And I wonder how they do it and what kind of programs they have.
I think those would be good questions to get answers to.
Well,
Yeah,
I would just throw in on that every state is different in terms of how they fund
Sure.
schools. So,
Sure.
they don't necessarily have an aggregate wealth formula.
no, but they might even have more dependence on local funds. And I wonder how they do that.
So, the focus of this is, the observation that across the country, different models are followed is a good one. I think the focus of this was, more on Massachusetts, more, kind of on the idea of, and that's why we threw the word rural in there, because
Mhm.
it's one thing to say, a district of 1,500 students is an ideal size.
Right.
If you live in a densely populated area, it may be relatively easy to form districts of roughly that size.
Right.
Whereas if you're living in a sparsely populated district, it could be much more difficult. And so anyway, it's really opening up the question as to what is a good size for a district,
Okay.
and what is a sustainable size for a district, and can this consultants provide some guidance as to what that is.
Mm.
Um,
Okay. Thank you.
okay.
Mhm.
Other questions?
Other than that, I had one on transportation.
Okay.
You're going to talk about that for a minute, or you want to hear the
Yeah,
question?
let's go to that. Let's go to that next if there's no other questions. Essentially, transportation came out of our meeting with Joanne, where she shared with us that the report that she got from the transportation consultants wasn't quite what she had been hoping to get. And essentially, we're asking that Joanne get what she wants in a nutshell. But the idea being that the report that we got essentially said, well, what happens if you take all the existing routes for the two districts and just keep running them, with the addition that buses that go to Pioneer First will head on to Gilmontague, and buses that go to Gilmontague First will head on to Pioneer to drop off appropriate students. And I think no one thinks that that's the ideal way of running buses in a combined school district. So the real objective is to get a study that goes a little more in depth into, okay, where would the students be, and what would bus routes look like if they were, if you forgot about any current model and just said, here's all the students, here's where they got to end up, how would that look? And Joanne, maybe you can chime in if we haven't gotten that right, but that's essentially, I think, what we thought we're looking for.
Right, I agree. That's, the routes were not going to be helpful the way we got them. And, we took too long to review them to get back to the transportation vendor to be able to get them updated to how we wanted them. They really weren't catching on. But since that time, I've had Cosmescus working on our bus routes and learning TransFinder, learning that program. And it's possible that, hopefully during a downtime. I don't know that there's a downtime for transportation between now and the end of June, but hopefully there's a time that maybe somebody at Cosmescus might have the capacity to do some work for some extra funds for us.
Very good.
Uh,
Very good.
Yeah, that would be good. I think you expressed some disappointment that they just took what we had and went forward instead of, I think you were hoping that they were going to just start fresh and just look at everything and invent it. Yeah. So that's a great idea if Cosmescus has the capacity to be able to look at both districts and start from scratch and instead of start from what we have. So that's
Well,
all right. Thank you.
I have a question, Alan, and this is for Joanne. So Joanne, would it be better to start from scratch, or would it be better to start with the report that came out that was incomplete and have them look at that and then revise it to what you're asking for, which is to find, efficiencies in how to route buses?
I think giving them that report might confuse them more than it would help.
Okay, yeah, no,
Yeah.
that's okay.
But they might at least understand what we're looking at here and have, understand what we're trying to get to. Take all of these kids, mix them all up together, and then create our secondary routes. It really doesn't matter what's happening in the elementary routes because those aren't going to change.
Right. Okay, thanks.
Can I interject for a second?
Please, Bill.
Are we going to then have to ask, we need to provide some definition, I think, for anyone to analyze transportation, unless we're going to ask them to do the whole thing. Sending the kids to one school or another, sending them all to one school. I mean, you got 3 different scenarios there that you're going to have to touch base if you want to start from scratch. And then you really need to provide all the information of demographics, who was coming up and where are they going to be in terms of our educational institutions. So I don't know if we're maybe asking for too much at this time relative to other conclusions we've made, which we haven't even determined amongst ourselves which buildings might be used or not. Thanks.
Yes, if we knew exactly what we wanted, so we said that every single middle school student, grades 6 through 8, is going to attend this building, and every single student, grades 9 through 12, is going to attend this building, give them all the students from both districts and say, create some routes for us. These are the buses.
Don't we have that based upon at least the initial consultants report? I mean, they recommended, that the high school be at Turner's Falls High School and middle school would be better situated at Pioneer. I mean, it doesn't take much to see why that it makes total sense because of the facilities being much more optimal for the high schoolers at Turner's Falls High School. And the middle school, it makes much more sense that it be at Pioneer. I mean, isn't that enough?
That would
Do
be
we
enough.
have another
Yes.
report? I think we have the information.
Okay,
You
then
guys not
we could
agree?
give them that. We didn't have that information when the TransFinder did the initial report. They did 3 different versions.
Right, but wouldn't our committee, wouldn't Alan and Greg, and everybody else, wouldn't you guys all agree that that was the recommendation? And it makes sense on so many different levels that should be the way it's divided up.
I agree for streamlining the process. I think we don't have a lot of time, so if we can streamline it and give them that assumption, I think that's the way to go. The only question mark that I see is Gill is K through 6. It's and is not a part of Pioneer. So that would have to be a discussion as to whether or not Gill would give up its 6th grade to send to the middle school, which is a separate issue. I don't think it's a major issue, and I don't think it really would affect busing that much. So I would just say, assume that they're all going to go, and then you deal with that issue after the fact, because I think it's just going to, if you try to include that, it's just going to make it thorny.
Right, and the proximity of Gill to Pioneer,
I don't think it's much of an issue. It's just a question mark, because Gill is pretty adamant about keeping its K through 6, but
right, but then people can choose, right? People can say, I'm going to keep my kid at Gill, or I'm going to send my kid to.
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's a choice.
Oh.
So I'm giving you the political side. I think for this study, I think let's just keep it simple and streamline it and make those assumptions. I don't know. Alan, what do you think?
No, I would agree with that because we don't have, a lot of time, nor do we have a lot of money, and we're going to try to divvy this up this time. So I'll welcome Deb. I can't see you, but I recognize your voice there.
Sorry, I was late.
If they did a deeper dive into this now and really gave us something to look at, I certainly would be satisfied with a deeper dive into that and really get some specifics. And it also might help whomever is looking at that, they can just focus on one. And if at another time, if we need to, we could take a deeper dive into another one. But I think the consensus was from the initial conversations that the way we had this divvied up right now seemed to be the pathway to explore for a while. So
Hey, Alan.
yeah.
Just another quick question for Joanne. Hey, Joanne, I really like the idea of Kosmeskis possibly doing this. Could we find out as soon as possible whether or not they might even be interested? That funds would be available for someone to, I don't know, I'm just asking.
Yeah, I'll send Pam a note that says we're looking at this and asking if they might be interested using TransFinder to put it together.
Great,
See what she has to say.
thanks.
Okay,
Or
and so
even their
for
own records,
Right, they already have all the information.
right?
If you hadn't figured out for time-wise, what I'm trying to do is combine subcommittee updates along with the grant deliverables with a task for the consultant. So I'm going down each one of those. Did you want to make any other comments now on facilities, Mike? And then I was going to ask you, what do you see as the work of the Finance Transportation Subcommittee while we're waiting for vendors to respond? So do you want to hit the facilities first?
Sure. On the facilities, we're looking for a couple things. One is basically a report on the condition of the facilities, fairly comprehensive, where we have received some from Joanne for the elementary schools in Gilmontague. But we haven't had a chance to review them yet as a committee. So we aren't in a position to either say this is exactly what we're looking for everything, or it's not. But the committee is very interested in not, both the sort of physical condition of the buildings, but also the capabilities of the buildings. In other words, and particularly in the areas of technology, what types of technological environments are possible, given what's there, and also given the capabilities of the utilities servicing those buildings.
All right. Can I ask on B, how do people feel about not having the, we've got quite a bit for the consultants to do, not having B addressed in this round of the grant?
Well, it's in there because people on the subcommittee wanted it in there. We understand.
Yeah,
we understand that, Alan, that you had said that, there might be more in everybody's asks than is possible. I mean, certainly under the financial, we asked, those tools, if we get all those tools, that'll be amazing. Personally, I'll be kind of surprised if we do, but I'd like to get what we can. And this, getting back to Deb's observation about, the busing, certainly it was the consultant's recommendation that a middle school be housed in Pioneer and the high school be housed at Gilmontague. Our understanding is that that was based essentially on the charge that both buildings continue to be used in some form. One is a middle school and one is a high school. And so they said, okay, well, given that, here's what we recommend. The question's been raised as to whether it would make more sense to have everyone in one building. And that's really an open question. It may be beyond the scope of this round with the consultants, but I at least some of us on our subcommittee are not convinced that the middle school in Pioneer, high school in Gilmontague is absolutely unquestionably the best way to move ahead with a combined district.
I'm just trying to, and I don't disagree with what you're saying. I'm just trying to think about not having the consultants go off in a direction and pull away from really looking at, in a minute we'll hear from Deb, looking at what would the education look like in each one of the facilities, finding staff and what's possible, and really just get a real deep dive into that and look at that and not then like have this other thing going on, maybe at another place, another time. But we really haven't had like an in-depth focus now of, okay, given this, we've sort of scratched the surface and began, talking to folks and starting to get ideas and pull it together. So I don't know, that's just me. I guess, I'd like to hear, I can't see folks, but I'd like to hear,
Alan?
maybe a straw vote or something of what people are thinking. Was that Deb's voice?
Yeah,
Deb,
I
Loomer?
was going to say, I agree with what you said, because we just said to the transportation, let's go with, the two schools, the middle school, Pioneer, the high school, Turner's Falls. So if that's what we're asking to have transportation wise, then once again, we should just stick with that for now and go with it is what I think.
Okay, I see Pat is on. I see Bill, your hand is up. I see Deb has joined us. This is just for the record. Anyone else that wasn't in the beginning, so we make sure that they're captured in the minutes. So Bill,
Yeah,
your hand was up.
excuse me.
Oh, and Renee, hi. Go ahead, Bill.
Yeah, there was two things. One is on that level of picking one building or another, I think that, as Deb pointed out, that the consensus seems to be that we would be having the high school in Turner's and the middle school in Northfield. The consensus outside of this board is probably wanting to have both buildings continue to be used, so that you're not putting this study in the position of trying to close something, which we all know is quite contentious. And then I also recently looked at information on numbers, student populations all around all around the county. And virtually every town around us, except for Greenfield, I believe is in the 600 to 800 student population. So whether it's Frontier or Hampshire or Mahar, so on and so forth. So we're not alone being a small population area in our schools. And I think looking at the buildings as well, one might consider a much earlier conversation, perhaps seeing this district expand in the future. And in doing so, then you're going to fill up, because Turner's Falls clearly has overcapacity in terms of empty seats. I don't know that Pioneers is quite as generous in that regard. And then secondly, I just want to skip back for a second to comments in finance, particularly around asking someone for their opinion of what is an optimal educational experience in a rural district. Because I don't think there's anyone who would say the optimal experience would be the best thing that you can possibly provide, but you have to be able to afford it. And part of affording it is not only having the students with financial backing, but also being able to financially back the staff so that people are going to want to work at that position in that place and also live a lifestyle that suits them. So I think we're running up against many things here, Michael, when we come talk about what is optimal, what isn't, and also what is affordable, because clearly in several of our communities around here, we have private schools that proliferate and they charge 5 times what we are able to get to educate our kids in the public system. And I never forget that. Thanks.
Thank you.
May I just make a comment, which is, Bill, I agree with you. And I'm not the one who put this comment in here, but the committee did vote for it. We all voted in favor of it. I think, and Jane actually is the one who really championed putting it in. Lynn and Michelle are here. I think Jane hopefully will show up later. I mean, I'd like to have her be able to speak to this if possible, but my understanding is that her main thrust was that she's not convinced that making a region out of 6 towns is going to be significantly better than having the existing regions, that it still will be too small. And that something else should be done if what we're looking for is to significantly improve the experience of the students. And that this came out of that, asking the consultants, well, if we wanted to provide an optimal experience, what should we be looking at? And it's a pretty vague question, and it may be outside the scope of this grant, but that's where she was coming from. And I think she's making a good point.
Yeah,
I'd
okay.
like to add to that, as a member of the Finance Committee. I think it's because if you look at the consultant's report, they say that we're going to continue to lose students in every town, school district, or whatever. And I think, I don't want to speak for Jane, but I think that's where she might be coming from, because if we're not going to increase student population, then we have to be thinking about decreasing student population.
Yeah.
So that's why I believe we talked about that.
And the operative word is optimum, and how you're defining that. I think if I'm hearing Bill correctly, that we're not alone. People in all the other counties, if something is set up and it's such a way, because this is pioneer work that we're doing, no pun intended, but it is. We're out there, doing the research, that it creates a pathway for other districts to come into, if this did become a town, it create a pathway for other districts to be able to come in and maybe be a part of that. So I don't know, maybe that offsets as everyone's losing enrollment, and it's all going to hinge on, is the state going to then step up and say, okay, we're going to change the formula and encourage you to do this. I want to move on, if we could, to the education subcommittee, and Deb, in the beginning, I had pointed out that, and Joanne pointed out that as long as one vendor doesn't exceed $50,000, that we don't have to go through a very arduous process of putting it out to bid and getting it back and everything. And I think that the thinking right now is to kind of divide this up. If because Messex can do transportation, that's terrific. Maybe we can get a vendor or two that's interested in the financial piece to work with Mike and the subcommittee on that. I did reach out to a Karen Boudreau that lives in Northfield. And I was impressed with some comments that she made, and I was interested in her background and so forth. So I gave her a heads up that, you know, the work that we were doing, and she went on our website and she's very interested. I thought I might see her here this evening, but so she could very well, she expressed a strong interest in reaching out and perhaps throwing her hat in the ring to work with the education subcommittee on a number of things that you've identified. So Deb, we're going to, if you can give an update with the education subcommittee, and at the same time, we're doing the task for the consultant, and they sort of blend together. Because I'm looking for what your next steps, what you're thinking your subcommittee will be working on, why we put this out there, and at this same time, what your deliverables will be. So I'll turn this over to you.
Did you want to put the deliverables on the screen, or I don't think I can do that.
Sure.
Maybe
Either you or Greg.
I don't know. Can Greg do it? I don't know if I can.
Greg, you want to put on the deliverables for the education subcommittee?
If not,
Yeah,
I mean,
yes,
it'd
he
be
would.
easier for people to read them too, then we just go through them.
He'll-
Yeah,
Okay.
give me a second. Let me just ask you, Deb, are
Yep.
these the questions that you came up with, or did you have a separate document? It was the questions, correct?
Well, they weren't questions. Well, I guess they were questions, but I say that they're questions, or that's what Raina wrote up, but they were based on three ideas that we thought should be explored by the whomever we hire, consultants.
Okay, but it was in Raina's email,
Yes.
correct? Okay.
Yeah.
Just give me a second. I'll pull it up.
Sure, I can start. So we had a meeting on, gosh, I can't remember, a couple weeks ago, and I thought it was a very productive meeting, and we were able to hear back from the teachers who joined us. It was Brian Campbell and Emily Miner, and gosh, I can't remember. The Gil Montague teacher came a little late, but they all gave us some. You guys remember, Deb?
Brian Lamore.
Brian Lamore. Thank you. I knew there were two Brians. And was there anybody else that I missed? I don't want to miss anybody, but we had at least three of them who had seen the slideshow, and they offered us some great constructive feedback. And so the first one we came up with was trying to get some sort of survey or feedback from staff, students, and community members about just, if not feelings about combining the two districts, at least I think it would have to be very carefully worded. It cannot be, how do you feel about this? Because we don't want to deal with like shutting down. What we want to do is have some sort of survey, or it might even just be small group question answer sessions that could be led or co-led by members of the subcommittee to introduce the idea of combining, of regionalization, and getting feedback from people. So I think it would be helpful to have a consultant to sort of navigate those discussions, as opposed to having us alone doing it with different people. It might not go as well. I figured we figured that it would be better to have it be sort of managed by a consultant to navigate the questions, and also how they're presented to small groups of constituents to get feedback and propose more I think more of a sense of how community members are going to feel. Like not only people are going to be directly affected, students and staff, but also community members. So that was the first one. Did I miss anything, you guys, from that first one that we want to touch on?
I think also, sort of getting some ideas from community and staff and students about what opportunities they don't currently have, or both the opportunities that they would like to have that they don't currently have, but also the opportunities that they currently have that they really enjoy. So I think that's kind of I think that would be helpful information to build on.
Also, I think to talk about the challenges potentially, to see, what people saw as stumbling points, to maybe being able to regionalize. So less about feelings, more about, collecting information. And so number 2 was creating a task force from staff, administration from both districts to discuss common mission statements, curriculum, teaching philosophy, share information, and also perhaps come to agreements or bridges of how this task force could have their own vision of what it could look like if they combined, and give them an opportunity to do so sort of independent of us, to help them feel more engaged, but also to help sort of, since they're the ones who are going to be creating it, do like this sort of mini pilot of what it really would look like if they combined, and have it also be supported by a consultant, and also perhaps spend some of the money on paying a stipend to participate. So there would be buy-in of their time, because it would take some time. And I have worked on a couple of the task force when I worked at Greenfield, and they're very powerful, and you can really get an awful lot done if people are very committed to the mission. So I think that could be very helpful, and it would help people feel like they're invested in the process. And anything else about that? And the last one was gaining more information about the curriculum. We're doing a deeper dive in the curriculum. Yep.
Deb, before you go on that,
Sorry.
so are you envisioning like several task force that
No, not
like
several, one
task force, and so
Yes.
and that would be looking at the educational components of what the staff would like to create for you used the word, you said, when challenges in regionalization. So the staff is focused on what are the hurdles to make this happen.
No, not
wasn't
number 2. I'm not interested in having, we've done that. We've talked about what the challenges are like. I'm not interested. I don't think we're interested in another group discussion of the challenges. This task force would be working together, both staff and administration, and staff meaning teachers, getting together, maybe 6 from each district, talking about what their mission is from their respective districts, what the curriculum might look like, what differences or similarities in teaching philosophy, and then creating a sort of a shared mission, curriculum, and philosophy, if you imagine them working together, so it would be both information gathering, but then it would also be with a goal of, let's imagine, let's see if we can create a mission statement that we can agree on. And it, of course, would be, it wouldn't be abstract, because these would be people from both districts sort of coming together to have a shared mission, curriculum, and teaching philosophy that they can agree on, whether it goes into effect or not. I don't want it to be an exercise in for naught, but I can see it as like a way for people to say, oh wow, they can work together, they can agree on these important aspects of what a school district should be doing for their students. And yeah, sort of a meeting of the
Yeah.
minds with some product at
Okay.
the end. I'm
All
sorry.
right, thank
Okay,
you for
so
clarifying that.
Yep.
Thank
So
you for
number-
clarifying that. That's good.
welcome.
Can I
Yep,
just ask a
Mike,
question?
sure.
Which is, I wonder if there's a danger with this one, because we haven't actually decided that this is a good thing to do, right? As a committee, we're still looking
Right.
into, we're in the process of coming to decision. And I wonder if asking other people to sort of visualize it happening, do we run the risk of having them sort of buy into a concept that then, later on we say, well, we decided we're not going to recommend this after all.
Al?
I don't
That's true
know.
of everything we're doing, though. That's true of every single thing that we're doing.
Well, but we are, right now, we're doing it as a ideally 18-member committee. I mean, this is talking about forming a whole other group of people who arguably would be much more involved if something does happen in making it happen. I'm just raising the question. I mean, now I sort of found myself wondering that as you were talking, and I thought,
Can I
That's the
chime in
question.
for a second?
Go ahead, Greg.
Yeah, I mean, what I see as a possibility for this is you have curriculum coordinators. You also have, I'm assuming you have curriculum committees in both districts, unless I'm wrong about that. I know we have our own curriculum committee. It seems to me that this goes right to the heart of what they do, and that you could meet with the curriculum committees, find out what their mission is, what they're working on as far as their curriculum development, their teaching philosophy, and then you get a very good summary of both districts. And then as a committee, right, as a education subcommittee, you look at the two respective curriculums and teaching philosophy, and then you can propose as a committee and say, what we see as potentials here, if the public is interested in potentials, right, this is what we see. And I think that's a great way to go about it, because you're not making assumptions about bringing curriculum committees in and saying, okay, what do you guys want out of this? Because I think that's what Mike is getting at. Like, we haven't, that's sort of getting ahead of ourselves. But does that make sense? Is that?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
I was going to say, Alan, a piece of it does, but a piece of it really comes down to is if you have, I don't know what the staff size are, but you have people representative from Pioneer and Turner's Falls, and they meet and they discuss things for a while, and the staff themselves say, this is just not going to work, then shouldn't that be a piece of our decision also? Because otherwise, we all know what happens if something gets shoved down a staff member's throat, like we decide as a committee, this is what's best for the towns, and the teachers haven't bought into it yet because they haven't had the input to it, then you're kind of defeating a piece of the process. So I'm just saying, I don't know if it has to be, X amount of people, but I think there has to be a formal place for the staff from both schools to get together and say, what do you think?
Yeah, I like the way that the education subcommittee, Deb, has put this together, because it's reaching out for the first time now and really getting other people's ideas and thoughts and how they feel and what they think is possible and stuff. And then out of that will come some conclusions about whether they think it has possibilities or not. I see Karen's hand is up.
Yeah,
I'm going to step back again.
I can't see anybody because we're being presented a document, but thank you. I think that it would be a good idea to, as someone just mentioned, I'm learning your names, to begin with the curriculum coordinators, and the school committee does have a curriculum and personnel subcommittee, and I'm a chair of that, so I'm familiar with what they do. That would be a good way to start and say, okay, what do we have in common? What do we have enough to bridge from? And then we could invite in staff from all the schools and ask for their feedback after we have seen what we might have in common and where we would have to build bigger bridges if that's the case. But I agree, we can't make it a foregone conclusion because that's going to just, get people's backs up in some cases.
Alan? And my,
Go ahead, Deb.
Yeah,
my concern
I'm
is-
in charge of this.
yes,
Go
you
ahead,
are.
Deb.
You're in
My
charge of what?
it's going to
I'm
seem
in charge of this deliverable for grants for the Ed Subcommittee because I'm the chair.
Oh,
Correct.
excuse me.
Go
so.
ahead, Deb.
So my concern still is that this seems like, again, a top-down decision and we need from the bottom up discussion. And so I understand curriculum coordinators, but are they administrators? I want the nitty-gritty people who are going to have to come together in the end.
Yeah.
And maybe one of the staff members, the teachers will call them, the aides or the paraprofessionals, maybe one of those people are the curriculum coordinators. And I just want to say, it also goes to Deb, that number 3, which for me is the first thing that's going to happen, is what exactly is the curriculum, not just on paper, but in reality in each of the buildings.
Right, and I would say that those are the curriculum coordinators be working together on number 3. And
Right.
this was in no particular order. It was just the order that just Raina put them down.
Yeah.
It wasn't like a priority.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Greg.
I just want to chime in one last. So I never quite finished, which was when you glean this information from curriculum coordinators, if you have curriculum committees, I sit on a curriculum committee at school. We go back to our departments. We wind up sharing everything that we discussed in the curriculum committee. If it's with the planning board, they'll bring it back to the faculty. So you're not, and so they actually do get the input from the faculty. They meet with their departments. They say, this is what the planning board is working on. They're trying to figure out what our curriculum is, our philosophy, our teaching approaches, what we're working on right now. What do they need to know? What can we give them, right? You get that from both districts. It allows them to meet with their departments. So they are meeting with their faculty. I mean, this is how we do it at our school. Then it comes back to the curriculum. They vet it again. It comes back to the planning board. They look at the respective approaches. And then you have conversations. What do we see in common? What do we see that could be potentials? You go back to those coordinators once again. Here's what we think are potentials. Are we wrong? Please take this back to your departments again, get their feedback. If they hate it, we've at least got the feedback. That way you're not trying to set up meetings with, where people are being left out, because they already have these channels in place at the schools, as opposed to trying to have a giant meeting where everybody gets to chime in. Does that make sense?
It does make sense. And I think that, and I certainly, when I put down, or we put down administrators and staff, I would imagine that having the curriculum coordinator from both districts would be on this task force. Because it's not just curriculum, it's the mission and philosophy. So I still think, and I think my committee probably agrees, that this would be a helpful way of gathering information, having people come together. So we would definitely want the curriculum coordinators on that task force, because they would know more than everybody else would, right, about everything in terms of the curriculum. Any other issues with number 2? Bill,
Can I be recognized, Chairman?
go ahead, Bill. Chairperson.
I'm sorry I wasn't at the March 4th meeting. I wasn't able to get in. I'm homeschooled on that developmental process, and tonight I was fortunate enough to get in. So maybe my homeschooling isn't quite up to snuff, but it's getting there. In any event, I agree that the teachers and staff should be involved, maybe even the cafeteria folks. Seriously, I'm not being facetious, but I think it's a little, if I was at the March 4th meeting, I would have argued that I think that process is a little bit early at this time. I'm having a hard enough time myself staying connected because of the length of time between our meetings. And some of, there's obviously some energy there that's trying to accelerate this whole process, but I'm not sure that it can be accelerated in that way. So I agree with Michael that at least the task force part, or having lots of discussions by staff, because some of the staff don't even have a thought about this whole process yet, because they haven't really learned about it. In any event, I just would be cautious about how we introduce new information beyond the data that we can already collect, and make some general, bring some generalized positions forward, and then throw those out to people. In terms of courses that are offered or versus courses that are attended, I think you can go to the course of studies on the Gil Montague Regional website and easily find the courses that are offered, which are basically geared towards admittance to University of Mass in Amherst, which is considered the highest standard. And then they go down from there. So clearly it's tiered, but that's another conversation. Thank you for recognizing me.
Again, these are three ideas for grants, right? So if we got 2 out of the 3, that would be great. If we got 1 out of the 3, I don't think we had them in particular order, so I'm just presenting them. Does anybody else have any comments on number 2? No. Okay, so number 3 was just
Oh,
gathering more.
Brian had a,
Brian, Brian.
Oh,
is-
Brian, sorry.
Brian
No, sorry.
has his hand up. Yeah.
Oh, I'm
I-
sorry, Brian. I
I
didn't
just
see.
wanted to apologize to the whole group. I just wanted to let you know I need to step off the call in just a few minutes because I have an obligation and I didn't want to do so without saying thank you.
Thank you for joining us.
Okay, so number 3 is gathering more information about the curriculum in the 2 districts. Maybe that would be learning more about this special education. Maybe it would mean a deeper dive into, I don't know, curriculum to college, or curriculum to workforce. I mean, that might have to do with mission maybe more, but I think that people on our committee were interested in the curriculum. So this would be an opportunity for the curriculum coordinators to maybe get together, or to have the consultant do sort of some sort of meeting with them. I do think part of this process is very time consuming, and I don't think people on our committee want to be responsible for that deeper dive into the similarities or the differences in the curriculum. Or again, going special ed, or I don't know, what else? Am I missing anything, Raina?
yeah, I think there was also some interest about, finding out which courses are offered and which are not offered, and the reasons why. Courses that are listed but not offered, and same with extracurriculars, trying to figure out a little bit around that, and whether further regionalization would help to alleviate that or not. So.
And maybe this has to do too with looking at, I don't know, ESL efforts, and just sort of getting maybe a better understanding of the limitations, or the, I don't know, where both districts sort of fall in terms of their abilities to meet the students' needs, all students' needs. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
So that's kind of where our ideas. Did I miss anything? I know Karen had a sent an email about some of her concerns, and I didn't see any specific things that you wanted, Karen, from that letter for the consultants to work on, but I might have
Well,
missed it.
I did have one thing for the high school, middle schools to consider, and that is the issue of accreditation. I know that one district has gone away from that, thinking it wasn't worth the expenditure. And I know that Pioneer is kind of on a pause from that. They haven't paid a lot of attention to it, but in its most recent iteration, and I was still at the school then, it was extremely beneficial to have people from the outside give us guidance on what we were doing very well for the students and areas where we needed to improve. And I think it makes a great deal of difference to be able to say that your school is accredited, and or can be detrimental to say it's not. There hasn't been any mention of accreditation anywhere.
Go ahead, Deb.
I was just going to say, I think Bill spoke to this previously, Bill, about the Gil Montague School Board going, accreditation is not what it used to be. Go ahead, Bill.
Yes, Gil Montague did not fund a accreditation event in the last go around, which would have been last year. So that's where we stand now, and the arguments that Karen you just presented were part of the basis of it, was that it takes a lot of time. It interrupts the process during that one semester when it takes place. It's a fair amount of money that could be better spent in other areas. And ultimately, that's not necessarily the greatest measure of the success or failure of a district relative to matriculation. So that's where it stands right now. You're correct. Gil Montague opted out.
Right, and I don't think we officially have, but we're way behind on our reporting if we're still in it. But I would say that the self-study aspect of it, where you get to sit down with your colleagues and really address specific questions about what your district is doing well, what your teachers are doing well, even what your structure that you teach in might need, can be very beneficial. And it can be beneficial when you get to town meeting and want to redo your building, which we did in the late 90s, without the accreditors saying you have to fix your high school. I don't think it would have been done that quickly. But as soon as it came out that, if you don't do this, you're going to lose your accreditation, it happened. So it can be useful for many, many reasons. And it is a little bit disruptive, but I think it's least disruptive to the students. And in the way that it's disruptive to the staff, it's because it's extra work. That's true. But you can get so much out of it when you get a chance to sit down and work with your colleagues. That's my view of it. So I thought it was something to consider. Thank you.
I'm not sure how the consultants would go worry about accreditation in either district without the districts being heavily involved in that. I don't know if that's what we're looking for in terms of how the money is going to be spent for this grant, unless I'm completely misunderstanding this.
No, except that having accreditation and going through the process makes a district more attractive. And if sustainability is an objective, that might be something that should come up with the conversations with the administrators and the school committees.
I would agree, but I don't think it has to do with us trying to figure out how to spend this grant money.
No, except that it's a topic that perhaps should come under, as the administrators and school committees talk to each other. Is this going to be something they would want to work toward?
think that
Yeah,
would be
can
a
I just
great
jump
thing
in,
for
Deb?
regionalization to work towards? If these two schools regionalized,
Mhm.
I think the ultimate thing would be to have a school that's accredited. I think it's also important, but I also understand it takes money to do that. And certainly Pioneer does not have the money to spend on worrying about accreditation. They don't see it as a value. And I've been on going to school committees for years, and I've never seen them consider it to be a value. So it's kind of hard
well-
to superimpose a value onto two different districts when there's
No,
not a lot of money.
wait. Let
Yeah,
Pat speak. Pat can speak to this.
yeah. We, all the time, I mean, I was on that school board for 44 years and accreditation was very, very important. It was something that everybody worked hard at and we gained that accreditation. It's only been in the past 2 administrations that it hasn't been on the top of everybody's radar. And I think Karen agrees with me.
I do.
I'm not sure that that's the discussion we need to have right now, but I think that we don't need to dismiss it because it really points the fingers to, like Karen said, what's going right, what's going wrong. And that's the only way I can see that we're gonna know what's happening and what we're doing right. So, yeah.
Oh, okay, I totally agree. It's
Can
a
I
value.
wrap that
but
part
we
up?
need to keep moving on, right? For the rest of this
Yeah.
meeting.
Yeah, Deb, I just want to say that a conversation, yes, but if going forward, if we're looking at regionalization, I think that's the time that we would get into that if we were forming a 6th town, and how might that help us to form a region more methodically using the tools that they provide. So I think that's a conversation for another time if we start going down that road.
I
But
totally
we're-
agree. I totally agree. And I want everyone to understand, I see it as a value of being accredited. I think it's important, but
Yeah.
we can't talk about that now. So that's it.
So
Did I
Deb,
miss
did you-
anything? Go ahead, Alan.
So can I
What?
assume, yeah, no, I was waiting for if anyone's going to respond, because I wanted to your comment, because I wanted to, so I think I may call you to just get a little clarity when we're writing the RFS, but this is good. I think we have enough to go on there, and you wrote it, your subcommittee has it broad enough that we can, we can reach into specifics as you start your conversations with other folks. So we'll follow that up. So you've done, Deb, the education update as well as, the task for the consultants. In the meantime, while you're waiting for, the RFSs to come back, what's on your radar screen for what the subcommittee would be working on in the interim? Because you don't have to wait for that to come back. There's lots to do.
I don't know if we have anything that we're waiting on. We have a meeting, which is set up for the 29th at 5:30. So I'll
Really?
send the information to Greg. We decided at our meeting to have that time set aside, right, everybody? But I don't know what our agenda is.
What time?
5:30.
5:30. Thanks.
Deb,
Yes, Deb.
and to answer Alan, I mean, certainly a huge piece of the education subcommittee is curriculum. And until we have some firmer thoughts or whatever on the curriculum, then you're kind of, talking in generalities all the time. And I think at this point, we're really interested in looking at the nitty gritty of what is offered and what could be better and what that sort of stuff. So I think
That's great.
Yeah, I can come up with probably a lot of things that we could do. We could just try to do a sort of a vision board for a middle school. We could do a vision board for the high school of what we would like to see that sort of uses the consultant's initial report sort of a jumping off place. But we could spend time, since our committee has changed a little bit, we could spend time talking more about the challenges that we see. I don't want to spin our wheels though, I don't want to get down to like, this is all, we all shouldn't be doing this, because it just feels too important. I think we have to keep moving forward with like concrete, like things that get produced at the end. So I'm happy to have look for direction, Alan or Greg, if there's something else you want us to work on moving towards
Okay.
something else.
So for full board for a minute, do you have any additions that you wanted to add? We heard from the finance, we heard from education subcommittee. Do you have any other things that you would like the consultants to take a look at? Greg?
I'm just going to chime in about, we did meet with the superintendents that had their own bullet lists. I just don't want us to forget that.
No,
And
good.
I don't have that in front of me, but I think that we should make a concerted effort to look at that and to see how it fits into the requests that the subcommittees have made.
Greg, could
Yeah, they were
I,
looking at a criminal justice program, a nursing, engineering, race, culture, and equality, equity, and a vertical pathway for bilateral education. So those are some of the things they brought up.
So Alan,
Karen,
if
you
you
wanted
could
to?
get that to us?
we have it.
I sent it in the
Yeah.
in the email, I believe. So you mean
Yeah.
Yes.
in all those documents that I attached there,
I
Deb?
said, yeah, okay. Missed that one with the address.
Yeah, it's entitled STRPB Regionalization Grant 2021/2 on the top of it.
Yeah.
All right, so we have enough to go on
Wait,
there. Karen?
Please,
Karen, did you-
yes. I just wanted to address the comments Greg made and say that there are some updates from what programs Pioneer has, because they have just received an additional implementation grant, $100,000 for implementing a career and technical education partnership grant that will allow them to expand what's called their pathways program for career and college. They do have the criminal justice program, although that's modified. They have pathways to nursing and engineering, but there are also there's an environmental pathway and so forth. So that you might want to have an update if you add that into the grant. That's all I'm saying. Thank you.
Can you send that to me in an email, Karen?
Sure.
Thank you. Okay, I'm hearing, we're gonna be wrapping up in a couple of minutes, but we had communicated with the staff of both schools in the spring of last year. And it sounds to me as I'm listening that two things. I'm finishing up a report to go to each town of what we worked on this past year. And I was listening to you and people were saying, gee, does the staff know what's going on? Does it make sense that we put together, the Public Relations Committee put together an email that goes out to all the staff? Here's what we've been working on. Here's what we've been doing. We're now applying, putting a RFS and just give everyone a big picture, and people will be reaching out to get your feedback and so forth. Does that make sense?
Yes, I cannot emphasize enough that we need to let people know what is happening, or that we are meeting, and that the only way I see this thing working is keeping our constituents informed and getting them involved and engaged. I mean, I just think that is vital. So yeah.
And along those lines, do you think that we should be thinking of like a bulk flyer to go out to all the communities, to a mailing or something, or we're not ready for that? Or just to let people know?
Mm-mm. No, I just think making the website more accessible. every time I go to try to find it, I have to go find an email. Or I go to the Gil Montague homepage in order to find how to get to the website. So that needs to be more advertised out there, prominent. And I know you suggested that the town clerks put it, get it put on the town web pages so people can get there, but as prominent as that can be, the better it can be. And then we want to make sure we update minutes and people can read minutes of meetings and things like that too.
Okay.
Well,
Karen, can you send something to Julie and let her touch bases with Jonathan to make sure it's prominent on the Pioneer website?
Yeah.
So that's another way people can find it.
All right. Julie. All right.
Bill, did you have your hand up?
No,
I did,
Oh,
Alan.
okay. I think Mike. Okay, Mike.
Just a couple of comments. I mean, I like the idea of sending something out with the staffs in the districts, but I just was wondering if you were planning to coordinate that through the superintendents. It seems like a bad idea.
Oh,
to
that's
send
how-
something out to the staff without them knowing about it.
Yeah, I think that would be the
No, no.
practice. Yeah.
Okay,
That's the route we used last time. We send it to the superintendents and ask them if they would share it with their staff. They're the ones that actually send it out.
And as far as communication with the community, would it make sense to have someone, maybe write up something like a my turn in the recorder, just kind of describing who we are and that we're looking into this?
I'm
That's a
sorry.
good
my
idea.
phone went
I've been
off.
struck by the fact that there's been almost no publicity, except for a few times when a reporter has thought to write an article about it. And it seems like, and obviously you need a volunteer, someone has to volunteer to produce that piece of writing, but it wouldn't, it doesn't have to be, obviously pro or con, but more, this is the process, this is how we got here. Here's where we think
Yeah.
we're going, here's where we think we are right now. And it could
Okay.
periodically update so that people who are interested can hear about it. And give a link to the
Okay.
website at the end of each one.
Yeah, I agree, Mike.
Okay.
I think this is the time to start ramping up public outreach because even though the consultants report may be done by the end of June, that does not mean we have to make a recommendation shortly after. We can take our time and make sure that we get the proper amount of public comment and feedback that we need before we make any decisions.
Okay.
That my turn is good.
Michelle, and then I'm going to see if we can wrap up and get a date for another meeting. Michelle?
Do you want me to contact Zach DeLuca? He's a reporter for several of our towns, and he did a lot with the Heart Committee. So he's
That'd be
aware
good.
how the Heart Committee and the other committee in Gil Montague, started, and then the 6 towns formed this planning committee. So I could reach out to him to get in touch with Alan or Greg.
How about would you consider joining us on the PR committee and help us out a little bit like that?
Sure.
Thank you.
What's another committee?
That'd be good.
What's another committee? Yeah.
Well, I can do a lot of writing. I just need editing and people to, make sure it has the right approach and so forth. All right, thank you. A lot of good information here. Greg and I will start writing things up to get an RFS out. Jane, your hand's up.
I'm just gonna say I'll edit your stuff, send it to me.
Okay. Okay. So what do we have? We looked at potentially March 24th or boy, that seems soon. Or March 30th. Yeah. So we're looking a little bit further out. Someone want to throw out a date?
30 sounds all right.
March 24th, we have other meetings, Alan.
What's our
Okay,
agenda?
that's
In
fine.
Pioneer.
And the
You mean the
30th, I heard,
You're
No.
gonna go to a Wednesday? 24th Wednesday.
How about the following
because
Wednesday?
that would be
April 2nd or 3rd?
the 31st. The 31st. Let's try that.
Oh, God.
Okay, we'll send an email, but and we do it at 6 o'clock. I want to,
What's our agenda for that meeting?
well, do you have items you want on it? We'll hopefully
Well,
we'll have
well-
the, share the RFS, the reports that we have. If you're having any meetings in between, you can provide updates.
Okay, well, I
If
guess
you have
that's what I'm-
agenda items,
No, I don't.
Send
That was my question is will we have something to discuss? You're saying by then we talk about the RFS?
we certainly can talk, we can start, we'll have it out hopefully, but we can talk about how we're refining what people will be doing. We can even have conversations about what work can be happening in the interim. Because we're not have a lot of time, but we've got 3 months to turn this around and then wrap this up. So if you have agenda items, send it to me. If we don't have enough, it's easy to cancel a meeting, but I'd rather schedule it and see where we are.
Yeah, I think
Okay.
we're gonna have to put the RFP together in the next 2 weeks and get it out.
Well, the next 3, 4 days, we'll be working on it.
Yeah. We're gonna have
Well,
to-
I will be.
Have to
We
get it
will
out
be.
as soon as possible.
Yeah.
So,
Cool.
Okay, so 6-town regional planning board, and if we don't need it, then we'll reschedule, but I see potential of things that we need to be talking about.
So was that the
Any other?
24th? I'm sorry.
That was the 31st.
24th? 31st?
No, 31st,
Okay.
Wednesday, the 31st at 6 o'clock. And can I just say that if people, so we're looking for one person in Montague. So if Mike or Len, you could talk around, I'll look at Warwick, and then we're also missing someone from Berniston. So you might want to see if someone has an interest to get sworn in by the town moderator to join our group. All right.
Cool.
Any other items that you want to have on the next agenda? Because we're running out of time on this one. Email me. And I think we're done. If you don't have anything else, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Jane moved it.
Second.
Michelle seconded it. All right. All those, well, can you do a roll call vote? Because we're supposed to do them in the, on
really?
Zoom. Yeah. Mike? Yes, no?
Yes.
Yes.
Deb, Loomer? I'm a yes. Greg?
Yes.
Lynn?
Yes.
Yes. Michelle?
Yes.
Bill?
Yes.
Karen?
Yes.
Jane?
Yes.
Renee?
Yes.
Pat?
Yes.
Deb Potay?
Yes.
And Raina?
Yes.
Thank you very much, everyone. We are now
Yep.
adjourned. Enjoy your
Yep.
evening.
Yeah. Night.
Deb Pody, I left you a direct message to just give me a call when you get a second. It doesn't have to be now, but I left you my numbers in there if you want to grab it. I want to be able to give you some information on the email and website, and so you can have access to it, being that you're the chair of the Ed committee, okay?
Good night, everybody.
It's for your
Night.
convenience. So
Bye.
call me when it's convenient. That's fine. I'll give you the information over the phone. I don't usually like to send out like things like passwords and over email. So
Why don't we just stay on?
we can. Yeah, I can give it to you now. I mean, that's well, here's the thing. Let me stop recording now because this is not certainly not information that I can